Hi everyone, my name is John, and I have a twin brother Sean, and we were both adopted, only we ended up with different families. And I'm going to tell you how different our lives turned out to be. It was a great day when Sean and I were told of our adoption at boarding school. We were very excited. We wanted to get out of the orphanage as soon as possible. Living there, to put it mildly, is no fun at all. All the time you have to fight for food, a good night's sleep, and your own safety. Sean and I were good friends, like brothers. Maybe that's why we managed to survive. So one day, a young married couple came up to us. They had been coming to us for a long time, watching us, and the principal told us one day that they wanted to adopt one of us. But in order to decide which one, they had to talk. Wait, so you're saying that they want to adopt one of us? That's right, boys. But you know we're brothers. I know, but there's no way I can influence their decision. They only want one thing. I understand how you feel, but think about it. At least one of you can have a better life, and then the other one can be pulled up. My brother and I stepped aside. She's right. She's right about something. You go do the interview, and I'll come and visit you later. No, you go ahead. You can't sleep here anymore. I know you're not comfortable, and I'm used to it. You don't get off that easy, John. We couldn't make up our minds, but we both knew we had to make a choice. We were given 2 days to think about it, but it didn't help. We each shoved the other. Eventually, an interview was arranged, and the choice was left to the parents. I went first, and that's when I saw the principal. She walked up to Sean and said something to him. Is something wrong? No, go ahead, I'll go after you. The interview went well, or rather the conversation. I liked the parents, they were nice and intelligent. Sean went in after me, and the director told me that there was another couple who wanted the same thing. I looked at them. It was obvious they were the least wealthy, but I was willing to opt for my brother. Eventually they put us in a room. You have a better shirt than I do. Are you kidding me? No, I'm serious. They're going to pick you over me because of the shirt. The parents are richer, they look at the clothes. Well, do you want to trade? I do. Here you go. Why, just the shirt? Give me everything else too. So we swapped clothes, even shoes, and sat down on the couch. I wanted the best for my brother, so I wasn't sorry. I even wanted it to work out, and a little later they came for us. Before they could say anything, Sean stood up. Rich's parents came up to him and said he was a very nice and sweet boy, but they chose me. Oh no, would you still consider it? Okay, great, so the other one will be taken by the other parents, no problem. We walked out of the boarding school at the same time. We dreamed so much about this day, but it was both the happiest and the saddest. Sean and I said goodbye, promising to meet up in a week in Central Park. Admittedly, the first week turned out to be such a fast one for me. My new parents were not only rich, but they also turned out to be very kind. My mother couldn't have children, even though she wanted to. She took care of me, brought me things, cooked for me, even though there was a maid in the house. My dad worked, and on the weekends we went out all the time. I went to the park every 7 days, waiting for my brother in the same spot. But for some reason, he never showed up. Bastard, he forgot about me. Probably lives there cooler than I do, said to myself. Meanwhile, my life had changed beyond recognition in a year. I went to school, made a lot of friends, started going to various clubs. My mother hired me a private music teacher, and they bought me a car, amongst other things. I tried to grow up to be a grateful son. I helped my mother and father. I often read history books to them. They both loved to listen. My father's business thrived, and so did my life. But I still missed my brother a lot. Mum noticed this. One day she came up to me when I was sitting in the gazebo in the yard. Do you miss him? Who? Your brother. How do you know? You're my son. I can see it in your eyes. Oh, yeah? I'm sorry, baby. For what? For not adopting the two of you. No, Mum, come on. No, I regret it. You're growing up to be such a wonderful son. I'm sure your brother is the same. No, he's so much better than me. He's so much better than you? Mum, why did you pick me? We didn't know which one of you to take for a long time. We didn't ask your names on purpose. We just wanted to get a feel for you, so we picked you. By the way, if you didn't even ask your names, how did you pick us? By the clothes. You were wearing a very nice shirt. And then it was like an electric shock to my body. What did you say? The shirt. Your clothes was different, so we remembered you by your shirt. Mum, did you say anything to me after the conversation, so you're going to pick me? Of course, we told you your brother was nice, but we wanted to pick you. Oh, no. What happened? Sean's an idiot. What? What happened? I got up from the gazebo and started walking back and forth. Suddenly, for the first time in a year, I realized that he knew more about something than I did. And for the first time, I wondered if he was okay. Maybe those parents did something to him. Mum, I have to find him. My brother, I have to. Of course, honey, I'll help. Let's get in the car. I cursed myself, scolded myself for not even thinking in all this time where he was and why he hadn't come. The first thing we did was get the old address of the parents who had taken him, but when we got there, other people were living there. We were told that the family had gone somewhere else and that something bad had happened there. My heart almost stopped. I didn't know what was going on, but all I knew was I had to find Sean. We went to the police, put up flyers, and still he was nowhere to be found. I was afraid to find him not alive. After 2 weeks, I was desperate, but my parents helped me a lot. They believed in the best and wouldn't let me give up. Finally, when we toured all the homeless shelters, morgues and hospitals, I sat exhausted at a roadside cafe in my car. I waited for my mum to bring me something to eat. Mum, I need gas and I'm coming. Come on, honey. I got to the gas station and a dude came up to me to fill up the gas. Sean, is that you? I thought they killed you. My heart almost stopped after he said that. Where is he? Where are they? What are you doing? I'm his brother. Where was the last place you saw him? I showed him the ad and he told me that Sean had been working for them for a while. I don't know how you look different, but your folks are clearly not normal. Sean was always bruised. I told him to get out, but he said he couldn't. After all, if his brother, which is you, found out, you'd go down for him, and he didn't want. I couldn't hold back the tears. They gave me Sean's approximate work address. I texted my mum to wait for me at the cafe, and I drove there myself. I drove to a shanty town, found a run-down house, and walked towards it. From afar, I saw 2 people. They were Sean's adopted ancestors. They looked even worse than they had the year before. At the first sight of me, his mother immediately started yelling, Where have you been? What are you wearing? Did you steal again? I didn't whip you enough. I should have whipped you some more. Then her husband came up and swung a stick, only I stopped him and threw it away. They were stunned by this insolence. Again, put on a chain, not enough for you? You won't eat for another 2 days. I will turn you into the police for such an attitude towards a child. What did you say? I'll whip you myself. Work off your bread properly. That's why you needed Sean, to make money. Free labour, right? And he was a fool to know that, so he switched clothes with me, idiot. What are you saying here? I texted my mum and walked into the house. Sean! Sean! I called out to him, but he was nowhere to be found. I ran out into the field next to the house and saw him working there, all dirty, exhausted in the same clothes he'd taken from me at the shelter. You damn bastard! Why did you do that? I screamed through my tears and walked towards him. Sean stood up in a daze. His lips were chapped. He was so thin. He could barely contain himself too. We hugged, and I was overwhelmed with anger. I wanted to kill his folks, but Sean wouldn't let me. I took his hand and told him he was coming with me. You can't. Then your parents will refuse. You should have been me. I know what you did. Then the man came up and wanted to hit me with a stick, but Sean put his shoulder up and the man hit him right in the collarbone. I got mad. I jumped on him and started punching him in the face. A woman came up and swung a bucket, but my mum stopped her. She was the first one to hit her in the face with her fist, and then my father interceded. So we took Sean away, and they turned those animals into the police. Sean was adopted by my folks, and from then on we lived together, just like we were supposed to.
Hello everyone, my name is Carl. I am a full 15 years old. My father is the president of a very large company in the United States. Our family is billionaires, but I work as a waiter. Do you want to know why? Now I'll tell you everything, and while you listen, watch and do not forget to immediately subscribe to this channel. Let's start with the fact that when I was born, we were poor. Yes, it is hard to believe. Now it is customary to think that if you are poor, you will never achieve anything. But my father is the best example of what it is possible to earn yourself, and he did it. When he and my mother got married, they had nothing. No place to live, no car. And the day came when it was necessary to pay the bills, including paying for the apartment. There was nothing. My mother had a little me. She could not go to work. Then my father, desperate, went out on the street and just went to shops and cafes, offering the services of a cleaner, a salesman, yes, anyone. He did not disdain work, and his mother respected him for it. That day he came back late at night, but managed to earn money, and although Dad was terribly tired, he always found time to play with me. So they lived for several years, until one day, Dad came as a cleaner in a large company. He was mopping the floors after the directors' meeting. One of the men kicked Dad's mop and called him a laborer. My father was a proud man, but with a brain. He could have hit him hard, but he knew he had a family to feed, so he straightened up and said something to the man that the others didn't even comment on. Dad told that man that the project they were working on would fail just because its concept was built wrong. They were going to build houses for the poor and sell them. Dad himself lived in such conditions and knew perfectly well what amenities were really needed. The guy just laughed and said he wasn't going to listen to the janitor's opinion. The idea of the project is beautiful, Gillies, that it is led by a person who does not understand and is not educated, my father said. He turned on Dad. He was hurt in front of his supervisor, and that offended him the most. Then the most important director intervened. He reassured his subordinate, then turned to his father. He asked him a couple of questions, and Dad answered. He just said his opinion and gave a couple of free tips. The director asked why my father worked as a cleaner if he was good at business. Then Dad said that a real businessman does not disdain any dirty work. It's hard to believe, but my father was put on probation after the dialogue. That subordinate was angry. He was furious. The very next day, my father came to train. He immediately showed himself. The internship lasted 3 long months, but it was paid. This money was enough for a living. After a while, Dad was hired for a long and hard work. It was a holiday for our family. Over the years, my father rose higher and higher. I grew up, we already bought our own house, 2 cars, and my mother gave birth to another daughter, my sister. And then we just got rich, until my father started running the company himself, which he came to as a cleaner. Despite the money, connections, and position, Mariana and I, my little sister, were brought up simply, without being tied to money. If you need money, go to work, Dad would say. Of course, we didn't need anything. We ate, we went to great schools, we had everything. But if I needed my own money, my father sent me to work. So in the summer, I worked part-time with neighbors, and then with this money, my friends and I went camping or went to parties. It didn't bother me that I was working. However, many people around were outraged and considered my father's upbringing ruthless. He asked them to mind their own business. I didn't like working at first. At first, I just wanted to ask my mother for money. She gave it to me secretly until my father noticed. He strictly forbade spoiling Mariana and me, and my little sister was offended with my father, and so was I. And once he came home earlier than usual, he sat me down at the table and said that there was an important conversation. Dad then explained that he could no longer support us and that everything we had would have to be sold. My mother almost had a heart attack. She was very worried and only asked what to do now. My father replied that now it was time for me to help him. I also had to earn money. That day I could hardly sleep, because I could not believe that we were now poor. I suddenly remembered again that feeling when every cent counts, when it is necessary to save everything, wait for wages, and sometimes go to bed hungry. I felt sick. I saw my mother's condition and felt sorry for her. And now we had Mariana, who had never understood what it meant to sleep on the floor in cheap apartments. I pulled myself together and made a plan of action. I understood that since I was a man, I had to take care of my family. My father did everything he could. I came to school, sat out classes, and then quickly ran to a cafe near the house and got a part-time job there. The receptionist was surprised. He didn't understand why I was working. I didn't want to explain for a long time. I just said that we needed money. He accepted me with no work experience and started the same day. It was hard. That night I came home exhausted, tired, and hungry. I ate quickly, did my homework, and went to bed. The next day, I was back at work after school. So 2 months have passed. I gave my entire salary to my parents and kept a small part for myself. My father and mother were proud of me, and I knew I was doing the right thing. Christmas was coming. I studied well, and so I finished my studies before the winter break with good results. Christmas morning began with unexpected surprises. Mom and Dad came into my room and handed me a gift box. There were car keys. I did not immediately understand what this means, and Dad said, "You deserve a gift. Now I see that you are my son and a worthy man." I didn't know what was going on. Then my parents took me outside, where a car was waiting for me. In all the excitement, I almost choked. I bombarded my parents with questions about where the money came from, and when we went home, Dad admitted that he had invented the bankruptcy situation. I wondered why, and then my father said his favorite phrase, "A real businessman does not disdain dirty work." At that moment, I was filled with a sense of joy and pride in myself at the same time. I didn't let the family down. It was important. I accepted the gift, and my father said that I could quit my job for the duration of my studies. but I was so used to making money that I said I'd work for a while. Another year has passed since then. I still work in that cafe as a waiter and I like my job. People around me no longer laugh at me. They show respect. Now I go to work by car, and I divide my salary for the needs of my home and family. I think I'm doing everything right. What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments and do not forget to put likes.